This July 11th. Roll call, please.
And just as a reminder to all who are in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Mr. Gallagher,
Here.
Ms. Conwell, Mr. Tuma,
Here.
Mr. Kelly,
Here.
Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. There is a quorum.
Welcome Mr. Miller here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
In your package, you have the minutes of the May 16th and June 13th meetings. If they're in order, I'll accept a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Thank you. 2023-0185.
Resolution number 2023-0185, awarding a total sum not to exceed $9,998 to the City of Fairview Park for the Fairview Park Police Patrol Bicycle Project from the District 1 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
Chief?
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you for, on behalf of Mayor Patrick Cooney and the Fairview Park Police Department, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you today. So just a brief comment about our bike patrol program. I was sworn in August of 1996. One of my first duties as a police officer was to sit in a dunk tank to raise funds for our very first bicycle, police bicycle. So our program has been around for 27 years, as long as I've been on the police department. Great public relations, community policing unit. Through the years, it's given us a great opportunity to get out of our cars, meet with people. One of the things that we do with bicycle programs is we team up with AAA and hand out bicycle helmets to kids, or coupons for ice cream for kids that wear bicycle helmets. And in the last couple of years, we teamed up with Aquinas, where we actually, those kids who don't have bicycle helmets, we issue them free bicycle helmets for safety. The problem is through the years, our bicycle program, our equipment is become very outdated. And as our department has transitioned from a very mature department to a very young department, our officers want to really rev up our bicycle program. And because of other issues, it sort of sat on the back burner for replacement for our current bikes. And recently, we had a conversation with Councilman Kelly, and he was nice enough to offer us to apply for this grant so that we can update our bicycle program. Our bikes currently, the average age is 10 years old. They've reached their life, and nowadays the bikes are quite expensive. They're not a cheap thing, but it's not so much a question of money. It's more a question of making the equipment available to our folks so that they can continue to do the good job they already do.
Thank you, Chief. And I think it's a great idea to get the police in the neighborhoods, either walking or riding, and this is a great idea. And it's always nice to see throughout the communities in Northeast Ohio. And I'll turn this over to Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm excited to be able to help Fairview Police. Not only do they have the neighborhoods they can ride through, but they have Westgate, they have the parks, and it's much quicker to get through some more like Westgate or any other parks to help people or to maybe possibly even find a crime in progress. So that, in addition to that, and I would like to make a motion to move this forward to full council for 3 readings.
But do we have any discussion? Yes, ma'am?
Just through the chair to the chief. What's your name, Chief?
Chief Paul Shepard.
Shepherd.
Yes, ma'am.
How many bikes will this grant cover?
This grant will cover 2 bikes. Currently, we have 3 that are functional. The last one was donated to us 5 years ago, and the other ones, again, are over 10 years old. So we are excited to move the 2 older bikes out to put the new bikes in, and then use the donated bike as a reserve in case we need it.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have second?
Second.
Motion and a second for second reading. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, folks. Have a good day.
2023-0186.
Resolution number 2023-0186, awarding a total sum not to exceed $225,000 to Baldwin Wallace University for Year 2 of the Northeast Ohio Flight Information Exchange NEOFIX program from the District 2 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
Well, good afternoon. I'm not sick, I'm just allergic to tree pollen. So my name's Stuart Mandel. I'm with Baldwin Wallace University, running a project that you are familiar of as the NEOFIX. I've got a presentation. I think you have it with you. If you are willing, I can go through it really quickly. I really just want to go to the new stuff. There's a lot of exciting things to talk about. Those are live links, website links. There's 2 portals for the NEOFIX, which is a data sharing platform for drone flights. The first couple links are through the Baldwin Wallace website. There's some a video of drones, which I don't know if we have the time. It's 3 minutes. If you want to look at it, we can. If you have the opportunity, I would suggest you do, because it really gives you a clear idea of what this is all about. Our colleague organization, Manufacturing Works, put it together. You need to click on that link. It would be the one that says richedward.com portfolio. That one right there. Yeah, me too. Oh, there is sound, but. So Zipline is one of the corporations that runs drones. They will be moving into the region if the NEOFIX meets their needs, and they are part of the design process, so it does.
Welcome to a future where the skies are safer, more efficient, and open to limitless possibilities. At Manufacturing Works, we believe in the power of collaboration and cutting-edge technology. With access to state-of-the-art facilities and skilled workforces, we are driving the development of autonomous vehicles that will revolutionize aerospace defense, advanced air mobility, and safety. Working closely with the College of Aeronautics and Engineering at Kent State University, we're pioneering new concepts and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Together, we're shaping the future of aviation. From unmanned cargo drones delivering supplies to remote areas, to autonomous passenger shuttles seamlessly transporting travelers across cities, Ohio is at the forefront of AAM innovation. With the NASA Glenn Research Center's Aeronautics Division, we're unlocking the potential of autonomous flight. Researchers and engineers are developing advanced technologies that enhance the safety and efficiency of our airspace. Even the U.S. Coast Guard recognizes the value of advanced air mobility. They are deploying autonomous aircraft to respond quickly and effectively during critical missions, saving lives in the process. At the Dayton Development Coalition, we're dedicated to bolstering aerospace and defense capabilities. With a focus on research and development, we're creating jobs and attracting top talent to Ohio. And it doesn't stop there. The Cleveland Clinic Foundation's groundbreaking work in SCSS P2P technology is transforming the way we think about healthcare and emergency response. Autonomous vehicles play a crucial role in delivering life-saving services to those in need. But it takes more than innovation. It takes key collaboration and strategic planning. That's why organizations like Michael Best Consulting, Manufacturing Works, Nottingham Spurt, Critical Ops, Baldwin Wallace, and the Northeast Ohio Flight Information Exchange in collaboration with many key stakeholders. Shaping the future of AAM in Ohio. Together, we're leveraging AAM technology to build a safer, more efficient airspace. From developing regulatory frameworks to establishing testing grounds, we're creating an ecosystem that fosters growth and innovation. Ohio's commitment to AAM extends beyond our borders. With the support of aviation business development, we're forging international partnerships with companies like Patriot Aerial Services, Iridium, Echodyne, Pierce Aerospace, Crown Castle, Collins Aerospace, Cal Analytics, Saab, and OneSky are all opening doors to vast global opportunities. From surveillance and reconnaissance missions to logistical support, autonomous vehicles are enabling our armed forces to operate more efficiently and effectively. Ohio is not just leading the way in aerospace defense and advanced air mobility, we're charting a new course for the entire industry. We take your ideas from concept into production while steering you into the forefront of advanced air mobility technologies. We combine the collective efforts of the manufacturing sector, academic institutions, government agencies, and the military. Ohio is forging a path toward a future where autonomous vehicles play a vital role in aerospace defense and advanced air mobility. Join us today, call Manufacturing Works as we soar into a future where autonomous vehicles shape the skies, where Ohio becomes a beacon of innovation, and where future possibilities are limitless.
Thank you. So one of the reasons to show you that is part of what we're attempting to do is find sustaining funding while we continue to develop the NeoFix. And to do that, we have to go to the state of Ohio. And the state of Ohio has an initiative on advanced air mobility, which in my understanding is the application for us would be for cargo, which was one of the early concepts I introduced to you when we talked the last time. But in the rest, the state's bigger concept is that they're trying to build a robust defense contracting relationship with ODOT and Jobs Ohio. So they have a big empire they're looking at, and right now we want to make sure this works in Cuyahoga County. So that video is part of our approach to them, and we're planning to meet with the House Committee, the State House Committee on Technology in August or September. So all of that will be reported to the council in the third quarter report at the end of September or October, I think that's due. Going back to the PowerPoint, if we can just go to the next page. So most of this is said you've seen before. It's not that I want to rush through it, but I know you're busy, and I want to get to some of the new information. So this is why Baldwin Wallace is doing it. These are the benefits of NeoFix and what it will actually do. It has to do with creating this infrastructure where companies will be able to share information and make use of existing sensors and data that exists, but it's not coordinated for this purpose. Why now? Well, I guess when I show you the pictures for drone flights in Greater Cleveland, you'll understand why. Cuyahoga County has all of these tech firms. It's got NASA Glenn, which has been doing research on drones and drone flights for its mission to Mars. You may remember that helicopter that they flew to Mars and actually had a successful test and flight. All of that technology is available locally to people that want to make use of it and develop the next generation of drones. This chart, you probably recall it. If you don't, I would ask you to pay attention to it. It's really complicated. All of those blue circles are stakeholders, and they require organizing individually and then coming together. And so that's what we're attempting. So the NeoFix is this space where we're coordinating it. And the good news is most everyone represented in those circles is cooperative and interested in seeing the NeoFix succeed. For different reasons. I think one of the reasons we're at this particular committee is because of the public safety and emergency preparedness applications. And I'll say it, I guess, simply, those folks get it the best. The applications for public sector use are obvious. They're being used for all sorts of purposes. Making the case to those individuals is not difficult. This is part of the outreach strategy. I just mentioned that video is one of the ways we want to sustain this beyond the county. We promised that we would match the county funding, so we're feverishly working to do that. And one of the places that we're going to go is the state of Ohio and also the federal government. Okay, this is part of the report. I'd rather not go into detail, but that's our rationale for using ARPA funds. Use case opportunities, that's the case that you make for drone use in the first place. So there are business applications as well as, and commercial applications as well as public safety and emergency preparedness and the like. I'm going to ask you to look at that at your leisure. Okay, so this is kind of the cool maps. So this is a diagram of a map. You know, we've adapted it from the FAA flight restrictions for Cleveland. And actually, there are 3 areas. And I don't know if you can zoom in on that and make that map a little bit bigger. But each circle is divided up in these grids. And each grid has a flight ceiling restriction on it. Well, that's cool. I guess I did that. I don't know how to go back. Can I go back? Okay, well, you're seeing the real cool stuff, but that's okay. Anyway, the flights restrictions are in Cleveland. The city of Cleveland has a rule about not allowing any drone flights. So to have a drone operate in the city of Cleveland, one must have permission, which is normal. And there's a protocol that one would access through the NeoFix to get permission to flight, but that's for planned flights. Unplanned flights right now are illegal, and that's something the public policy will have to address as we move forward, especially as the flight corridors are developed. You know, going from one point to another so you don't go over a dangerous area or create a bad situation. So those pictures that you're seeing are actual flights that occurred, drone flights that have occurred in northeastern Ohio, at least this part, from January to June. So I think can we go? Yeah, okay. So there's considerable density there. Now those aren't all public safety and emergency preparedness and public officials. Those are commercial flights as well. And what we're talking about is bringing order to that and having a tracking system for compliance with rules, which have yet to be developed, but also, you know, to kind of prevent accidents. So I wanted to show you this because it's such a difficult concept to grasp. We don't really see the drones, but they're there and they're being used. Okay, so if you'll notice, there's some over Lake Erie. If you'll also notice, there's some densities in particular areas where you have drone operations going from one point to another, or just observing and monitoring. So when a drone flies, it produces a signal that gets recorded. There's a big data capable system that tracks it. Another challenge of this will be managing big data. So all of these are development opportunities. And the last kind of piece of this is I had a meeting this morning with one of the drone companies, and their attitude is if Cuyahoga County is a good place to operate, they're going to locate here, some operations here. So part of this concept, which I'll hopefully report on in Q4, is that we want to develop you know, kind of like a hive, an office hive in the Aerozone district at the back gate, near the back gate of NASA Glenn. And as we talk to these companies, which you saw in the video, they're interested in having a presence in such a facility and, you know, paying rent and employing people. And we believe that's the first step demonstrably that we are having an impact with job creation. Okay. So just in case you are wondering, these were the meetings we've held this last quarter between April and June. At the end of June, you can look at that list, but basically they're data gathering. The challenge is to get people to cooperate and volunteer their data. We will have to buy sensors. A sensor is a mechanical device. Some of them are quite expensive. I expect to approach the state of Ohio during its capital budget development I have reason to believe that we would be successful in it, but, you know, they're expensive. And the more sensors there are and the more diverse in terms of data that they collect, the better the map. And this, you've seen, this is our schedule. We're on it. We're still committed to it. I'm happy to report that we're keeping to it. Do you have any questions?
What kind of data are you trying to gather?
Right. So right now, it's weather data, motion data, existing sensors, I guess is the way I would cast it. So there are two what I would call super duper sensors. One's on top of the Ohio Aerospace Institute building next to NASA Glenn and the airport. The other is on top of the Brown Stadium. So there's two, and they collect complex data of all sorts of motion, timing, and it goes, it's not automated, but it's a system that already works that we are able to tap into.
What, is that the only, I know that's the initial use that you plan for it to gather. Could it possibly, in the future, gather any criminal activity, anything like that? Data?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't, you know.
I
I
suppose.
don't know about aerospace and all that, so just wondering with technology. And then my other question, I know this is a hefty project, but looking at your diagram that you show with the blue dots, can you give us like a timeline of
Yeah, I mean.
when you think the project will be done? Because you have a
Well-
lot of funding sources you need to get.
Yeah, well, it's 6 months old. I guess the way I could, right now it's 6 months old, and the database and the interface and the website is up. We have to spend the next 6 months on what I will call year 3 funding, because our goal is to get year 2 funding, which is part of from you all, which is our original proposal. I don't think it'll ever be finished. The way that it gets paid for, once it's in that condition where there's a product being offered, will be through user fees. And I'll expect that the companies, I doubt public sector, I doubt the police departments are going to pay for this. So this will be the private firms that use, and it'll be some kind of fee per flight, and it'll be small, but it'll be a lot. I think if you saw that density of flights, that's just a disorganized system, and there's a considerable number of flights going on. So once it's organized and there's routinized deliveries, I think it'll be, it certainly should support itself and provide resources for the municipalities over which it's operating.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there are a number of police departments that are using drones at this point, and how would that affect them? I mean, are you going to try to, is this going to try to curb what they're able to do on their own? And the reason I say that is, I'll just take Westlake Police. They have a pretty good drone program there, and when that armed robbery happened at Starbucks in North Olmsted, and one of the policemen were shot at, that car ended up in a yard, and they brought that drone down to the point where they could see every movement he made in the car until that was taken to the end. So I would hope that this would not affect what law enforcement is able to do. I'm trying to get a hand on what you're trying to say here about charging people to use drones. This wouldn't affect law enforcement's ability to do what they want to do with it.
No, I mean, they're at the table, including Westlake. And if you look at the list of people that are in the roster, they've been involved from the beginning. Also, North Olmsted's pretty sophisticated. They're quite interested in seeing these things progress. So, no, we're not intending to interfere or cause greater complexity or cost for the public sector folks. This is strictly going to be paid by the commercial usage and maybe recreational users, but we haven't figured that out either. That's part of the public policy debate. I'm in charge of that subcommittee, and I welcome any and all input from the council on that. But I hope I've answered your question. No, we are not setting it up to interfere with the police at all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for being here today. It's certainly, fascinating discussion. I was at a NASA, I guess, event back in December that we got invited to, and they were really, really positive that drones would be like very soon, the wave of the future, but very, very soon on a practical level being a part of our everyday existence. And, I'm a little slower on this, trying to catch up. And, but, from what they showed us and from what you're showing us, it's becoming a bigger part of our lives, obviously. So I don't know, maybe concern's too harsh of a word, but my concern, I'll say, is your discussion with the state government. Oftentimes the state is very restrictive. Currently, the way the setup is right now, we'll say it that way, it's very restrictive in many forms. And I would hate to see any positive technological advancements be held back because of, some silly reason, or they don't, or they're, as the councilman alluded to, they want to charge a major fee for startups or things like that. So I would just say, is if you're, the spokesperson on behalf of public policy, just to keep, keep it in mind that, in order to continue to advance technologically, people have to be innovative and have to have the ability to financially support themselves and things like that. And I would say, as far as fees and things, less is more as a startup here. And then my other question is what is the relationship between the federal government? Because when I think of like things flying around in the air, I think that the federal government's going to be involved at some point. And is it a trickle down like, we have for automobiles and things like that? Is that what you envision as, federal law, state law, and local law? How do you envision the future moving in those terms?
Well, there's a lot in that, in your comment. So let me try to go to the first part. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's really tricky. And I'm a novice at working with the state government. But what I found is there's a market for good ideas. And as long as we stay in the kind of the middle and make this an infrastructure discussion about jobs and strengthening Ohio, we get welcomed. So, what you said is spot on, especially the department folks, and kind of its understanding how state government works, which I have a little bit of a sense of, and really going to the right person and saying the right thing to them, and that's what's tricky. So I'm aware of that, and if you can help, Representative, I don't know if you were a representative, and I don't. Okay, so anyone that had been down there.
Several people up here have.
Yeah, that's the kind of advice I would highly value. Okay, so then the aspect of the public policy, the federal government's really focused on military applications, and they're pouring a lot of money into that, and both military and homeland security. So we're thinking this is drone surveillance is wrapped up with cybersecurity and surveillance and public sector uses. So we think that would be the federal sweet spot. And there are some projects. The only problem with federal projects is they're tied to outputs that are going to take us off our game. So that's also tricky. So we're thinking maybe the approach with the feds is through legislative designation, funds for, and then there's an RFP that's designated for us or similar. So that's a strategy, but that is separate from state government. The state does have resources for it, drones, and I think that they are kind of understanding now, after 6 months of this steady messaging, that the military applications are not commercial, and because we're piloting it, because we're testing these ideas here, they should be able to port to the rest of the counties, and every county has its own dynamics and geography, which is important, and weather. So it's been on that basis that we've been able to make some headway.
I appreciate that. Just one last follow-up question. I don't want to take up everything. How did one of those data ports get on Cleveland Brown Stadium as opposed to like any place in the county? How did it end up there? I
Well,
get NASA, you know.
So, in addition, so again, it's events management and public safety. So when a drone interrupts a football game, there's a real problem.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank you very much for hearing this legislation today and to kind of put out the big picture. The purpose of NeoFix is to create a flight information system for drone flight so that it's safe and efficient to fly in Greater Cleveland. And we believe that doing so will encourage industry that's in the business to locate here and to create jobs, so the economic development benefits will be considerable. NeoFix has accomplished key objectives in its first 6 months of operations. Particularly, they've reached out and successfully engaged with a large number of stakeholders in the region that need to be involved in a system like this. They've created a web portal. They've started collecting flight information, and they're also working on expanding their center capability to increase their information gathering capabilities, and they're working on developing the capability to be financially sustainable in year 3. So on the basis of the good start and progress made, I would ask my colleagues to support this legislation. I would also like to say a big thank you to the county executive in providing funds from his available sources to pay for half of this allocation, along with the District 2 ARPA allocation. So I would ask if one of my colleagues would, at the appropriate time, make a motion to refer this legislation for second reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I got to do some more research on this. I got to start looking at these websites that you have listed here and all that. I'm not sure about this yet. But I have no problem with this going forward for second reading. It's just that I want to do a little more research on this, a little more knowledge for myself before I would vote on this at the end of all this. So that's all. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I know you came before us before through the chair, so I do remember you. So can you tell me what's different, why you're here today from what you first presented?
Well, when we made the initial proposal, we asked for two years of funding, and this is the second year. So absolutely understand how difficult this concept is, which is one of the reasons we wanted to have some experience and something to report in terms of performance before we got the second batch of funding. That's really.
So, Councilman Miller, we passed the first round. Oh, I knew it was familiar. I was like, am I caught in a time warp or something? Okay, so I'm understanding. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, due to the highly innovative nature of what we're doing, we thought it would be good to start by funding this program for the first year, and if they made a good start and seemed to be on track for accomplishing their purposes, well, then we would put funding together for their second year. And I would say that in terms of meeting my expectations of what they've accomplished so far. They're very close to everything that I expected. They've really made a good start. This is in contrast to another one that we funded that I think has a little farther to go, and I'm going to have to do some work with them over the next several months to hopefully bring that back for second-year funding. But this one looks very strong so far. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to move this on for second reading.
I'll do a second, but I wanted to ask
Oh,
a
I'm sorry, you had a
question. Through the chair. So I would just ask, you said Mr. Lind, what was your, okay. If you could just, as you're reporting and giving your reports to us, if you could let us know if there are any other thought processes besides weather and motion that this would be used for, that would be appreciative. Guess I'm on the same concern track as Councilman Kelly in regards to, I know things can be intended for one way, and then somebody can down the line decide that they're going to use that policy and change it to use it for another reasoning. And the example would be the red light cameras, or the speed cameras. They were initially brought to City of Cleveland for safety, public safety, and then it became something that became a cost on residents. So that's all. That's on my request is, and I will look at your other links. I supported it the first time. I just seconded. I support it, but I just want to, as we add new things, we just got to make sure that we're.
Actually, I appreciate that. So since we know that's a concern, we'll make sure that's part of the ethos of doing this.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? I have a second. Further discussion? For a second reading, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Miscellaneous? Hearing none? Thank you.